A very warm welcome again, and I would like to introduce you to the ABCs of CBD. Let's just get this going. There we go. Oh dear. Apologies, something seems to have gone a little bit. There we go. Yay! Welcome to the ABCs of CBD. Before we start our day, I would like to just share with you a disclaimer. Healthy Hemp do not make any claims of medical benefits resulting from the use or from any of our products or any other CBD products. Please give that disclaimer a read. As you know, CBD is legally sold in Ireland and a lot of the EU, and most of the EU, I should say, barring some, as a food supplement. None of our products or information or answers to questions that we will be providing you with today is intended as medical advice, shouldn't be taken as such, and our products are obviously not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease or condition. So, what is CBD? Well, CBD is a non-intoxicating compound found in the cannabis plant. It is one of over 113 cannabinoids, as well as there is flavonoids and terpenes found in the cannabis plant as well. And it is currently being extensively studied and researched due to the therapeutic impact at a molecular level. So we tend to say that CBD works with the systems and not with the symptoms. And that little statement there will become a lot more clear as we go on through our presentation. So our first question that generally I'm asked is, well, what is the difference between hemp and marijuana? And to put it very, very basically is this. Both the plants are from the cannabis sativa family and they look very similar. But hemp has no or very little THC, and marijuana contains generally higher levels of THC. What is THC? Well, THC again is one of the cannabinoids found within the cannabis sativa plant, but THC creates a high or euphoria effect when used. So CBD is 100% legal in most countries around the world, but THC in most countries around the world is illegal. So just to take a very quick look, when we said that CBD works with the systems, our body is made up of a variety of systems. Skeletal, respiratory, muscular, circulatory, nervous system. I mean, there's 12 of them. There's 12 of them in the body and they all have their purpose. And, sorry, I just left someone. The endocannabinoid system is actually one of those systems found in our body. So, sorry. Right, so here we go. The endocannabinoid system. Now, I'm sorry if this is a lot of reading, but here we go. I'm trying to put it forward to you as simply as I can. So the endocannabinoid system, also known as the ECS, its main function is to maintain homeostasis in the body. That's balance. So we look at ourselves today, we are all in balance, the whole lot of us. There's nobody that's exempt from it. Our bodies are inflamed, we have bad diets, we live stressful lifestyles, both mentally and physically. The environments that we actually live in is toxic. So our bodies are out of balance. Now the ECS is constantly reacting and adapting to this barrage, this influx of attacks on it the whole time, okay? And it's finding it very, very difficult to actually maintain the balance of all the different systems. Nervous system, endocrine system, which is our hormone system, and such. So it's really, at the end of the day, it's completely overwhelmed. It's overloaded. And because of this, there's actually a syndrome called the endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome. And this was proposed by Dr. Ethan Russo in 2004. And this is where he stated that because we suffer with the syndrome, everybody basically is suffering with the deficiency of the endocannabinoid system because our bodies can't keep up with the demand of our own natural cannabinoids that we produce in our body. Yes, we do. We produce our own natural cannabinoids. Not all cannabinoids only come from the cannabis plant. People tend to look at me strangely because they think that I'm talking a little bit of nonsense to try and what's the word? Persuade them that yes, we do have these plant molecules in our body. We don't. We have endocannabinoids, and the actual cannabinoid in the cannabis plant is called a phytocannabinoid. But anyway, getting back to it. So CBD that we are able to get from phytocannabinoids, the CBD phytocannabinoid from the cannabis plant, can supplement our endocannabinoid system. And in doing so, it combats the ECDS, which is the endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome. Now, sorry to get a little bit technical, but just to give you a little bit of a rundown here. The endocannabinoid system basically comes in four compartments, four sections. Okay. Firstly, we have the ECS, which was discovered in 1988, between 1988 and 1992 by Dr. Mashula in Israel. They also discovered at the same time CB1 and CB2 receptors that are in our body, and our natural cannabinoids, anandamide and 2-AG. Now, anandamide is known as the bliss molecule, and I'll tell you more about that just now. The next thing that was discovered was really the CB1 and CB2 receptors and how they worked with our natural endocannabinoids. It's called the lock and key. So if you can imagine a lock and the key and how they fit in perfectly together, that is exactly how our receptors, the CB1 and CB2, and our endocannabinoids that our body produces naturally, anandamide and 2-AG, they fit together beautifully and perfectly. Now, there are enzymes in our body that create the endocannabinoids, depending on demand, on stimuli. But at the same time as our body producing these endocannabinoids, we also have enzymes that break down the endocannabinoids when they feel that it's no longer needed in the body. Now, these four sections are constantly running all the time. The endocannabinoid system adapts and regulates, remember, as I said earlier, all the time, and it runs by itself. So this is auto-regulatory. It's adapting, reacting, and adjusting itself all the time. Now, there's just a slide. It's a little bit complicated, but I put it up for you so you can see exactly where I'm coming from with regard to when I'm talking about CB1 and CB2 receptors. These are the receptors that our endocannabinoids in our body work with directly. Okay, so that's just there. It's gives you all the different areas where the CB1s are more commonly located generally, and the CB2 where you will find a lot more grouping of the CB2 receptors. Now, I'm not going to be looking too much at that because our next slides are going to give us a little bit more information than what is out there at the moment, where everybody just feels there's only CB1 and CB2 receptors in our body. And that is unfortunately not true. So, sorry, every time, here we go. So, CBD and the receptors in our body. Well, the CB1 and CB2 receptor, in actual fact, CBD has very little binding affinity to it. It does affect them, but it actually doesn't bind like the lock and key method that everybody kind of generalizes. Okay. CBD actually binds directly with the following receptors in our body. Serotonin receptor. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of serotonin. And the serotonin receptors are actually called the 5-HT. Now, they found mainly in our central and peripheral nervous system. Okay. Now, these receptors have been implicated biologically and neurologically to anxiety, addiction, appetite, sleep, pain perception, nausea, and vomiting. And CBD actually binds directly with that receptor. So it's going to have a beneficial effect. The next receptor that CBD binds to is called the vanillinoid receptor, also known as TRPV1. Okay, now TRPV1 receptors, they actually mediate pain perception and body temperature in our body. The next receptor is called the orphan receptor, called the GPR55. Now, these receptors are mainly found in our brain, in our cerebellum. What do? They modulate a blood pressure and bone density. Now, where this comes actually quite, it's actually really interesting, is that these receptors facilitate bone reabsorption. So an overactive orphan receptor, GPR55, has actually been associated with osteoporosis. What does CBD do with this receptor? It actually blocks the GPR55 signaling. And by doing this, it actually decreases the bone absorption rate. So I find that absolutely phenomenal. But anyway, that's what the orphan receptor and CBD, how they work together. Another receptor is called the nuclear receptors. Now, these are situated on the surface of the cell nucleus. Okay, they are anti-proliferative effect. They may degrade amyloid beta plaque, and they regulate the genes involved in energy homeostasis, lipid uptake, insulin sensitivity, and other metabolic functions. Sorry. Right. So there we go. I know it seems like quite a lot, and I do apologize. Right. There are other functions that CBD actually does. It's not just all about connecting to a receptor. CBD inhibits reuptake. Now, what is reuptake? Okay. Our natural endocannabinoids, anandamide and 2-AG, and we'll talk about anandamide here, okay, are produced by our body. Remember, we spoke about it earlier. And we've got the enzymes that produce the natural endocannabinoid, and then we have the enzymes that break down that cannabinoid, okay. CBD inhibits the reuptake of the endocannabinoid. So therefore, instead of our body breaking it down, basically taking it away out of our system, CBD allows for it to be in our system for longer. Now, anandamide, known as the bliss molecule or the joy molecule, is directly linked to a lot of our mood. So if we have our natural endocannabinoid anandamide in our system for longer, we're obviously going to gain the benefits of it being in our system for longer, instead of it actually being basically taken out of our system too soon. Is everybody all right with that? Everyone okay? Okay. Okay. So a very wise man once said, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And I must say, I do absolutely love that little statement, because it couldn't be more true. We tend to live in a society where we want to cure everything all the time before we take steps to prevent. So there we go. Now, I've moved on quite quickly there from the endocannabinoid system. I'm moving on to the tips of buying CBD. Is there anybody at the moment that has a question for me that they would like to put forward? If you do, please just use the little emotion thing on our little chat there, and I will, or unmute yourself if you have a question to put forward about the endocannabinoid system. Now, I do apologize. I do try to put it over as simply as I can. It is complex. It is still being investigated at this moment in time. It's still being researched every day on a daily basis. And at the end of the talk, I will actually give you 2 websites that I promote to my clients who are looking for more research into it. But yes, if there's anybody out there that wants to put a question forward now, please do. I don't mind at all. If not, I'm going to just right. Right. What does THC stand for? Right. I will come back to that if you don't mind. Oh dear, I apologize. I'm not. There we go. Oh, and it's gone again. There we go. Right. So I'm now going to look at a few tips for buying CBD. The reason why I find this vitally important is that our market is flooded at the moment with all sorts of products out there talking about CBD. And unfortunately, not all of them, in my mind, should actually be on the shelf. There are so many out there that are really substandard, and it's scary. So I hope that some of these tips for buying CBD will help you and assist you. And here we go. So, few tips very quickly. Lab testing. Now, as the consumer, and with all of this being on the market, there's a lot of bottles that look very enticing. A lot of them look very medicinal, but very few of them sometimes have the information on the labels, on the packaging. And one of the bits of information they should have is where it is tested, where your CBD product is tested that you are looking to possibly purchase. So look for products that are tested for consistency, that are verified for free of mold and bacteria, pesticides, solvent residues, and other contaminants. Now, the quality ingredients, I have a very saying that I give everybody, not all CBD is created equal. And that is most 100% definite, okay? Select products with quality ingredients. Try to stay away from corn syrups, GMOs, trans fats, and artificial additives. There are all sorts of CBD products out there that unfortunately are adding all these synthetic flavorants and chemicals to them to make them possibly a little bit more palatable for some people. But at the end of the day, what health benefits you're going to get out of a product depends what's in the product. And if you're going to be adding something that really at the end of the day is toxic to your body, you're not going to be benefiting from it health-wise. So take a good look and really squiz through the ingredients. And if you're not sure of something, put it down and investigate it further before you pass with your hard-earned money. Safe extraction. Now, there are chemical extraction methods out there, but I tend to promote the supercritical CO2 extraction. Why? Because a lot of the chemical extractions out there actually leave a solvent residue. And especially for people who have compromised immune systems, this can cause further health problems. And it's not just for people with compromised immune systems, it's for anybody. Again, you don't want to put a chemical into your body when you have chosen to go CBD as an alternative. You're looking at a natural product. Why would you now want to put a chemical into your body, into your systems? So rather stick with the supercritical CO2 extraction. There's no toxins, and it also produces a higher quality yield of CBD extract from the cannabis sativa plant, in this instance for hemp. Go organic. Now, I'll also be looking at the word organic just now, and you'll be quite surprised as what's out there. but seek out CBD-rich products that are grown sustainably in accordance with certified organic standards. Don't just believe a label that says organic, but I'll cover that just now. Additives: avoid CBD hemp oil vape cartridges, products with toxic flavor additives and other harmful ingredients. The one that showed itself recently, if I recall correctly, was the vitamin E acetate, which was found in quite a few of the vaping products, and apparently was causing horrendous damage to the lung tissues. CBD content, very important. Look for product labels that indicate the amount of CBD per serving, not just the total cannabinoid content in the entire bottle. I have so many people phoning me on a daily basis, asking me to help them. They've gone and bought a CBD, not necessarily from myself, but from another company. And quite honestly, they don't understand what they're supposed to be taking, how much they're supposed to be taking. And I do tell them to contact the company first, because I do not have any in-depth knowledge of that particular product. Beware of companies that make explicit health claims about CBD products. Number one, this is not allowed legally, okay? And number two, many claims out there that I see, misleading, false statements, they have no standing behind them, they have no research behind them, or the research is currently still ongoing and has not been published. And with that, it actually cannot be stated as a fact. Plantations. Now, this is an important one as well. They're actually all important, but I truly believe that for us in Europe and in Ireland, in the EU, that we should be choosing Irish-grown and EU-grown hemp products. The regulations, we know the regulations in the EU, we know the regulations in Ireland, because obviously it's EU, part of the EU. But in actual fact, with regard to organic regulations, Ireland is a lot stricter with regard to ticking all the boxes on being an organic farmer in Ireland. So for me personally, I would rather go for an Irish organic product and an EU organic product before I would go with a hemp CBD product from another country outside of the EU and Ireland. Misleading information. Please, ladies and gentlemen, think twice again about the misleading statements that are out there and attached to so many products. So many products claim that, and I have seen this all over, that CBD from seed and stalk. Well, I can tell you right now, and there is no questioning it, there is no CBD found in the seed of the hemp plant. We have a product from the hemp plant, the hemp seed oil, which is extremely beneficial to our health because it is packed with omegas 3 and 6. But with regard to CBD, hemp seeds do not contain CBD. And the stalk actually contains trace of CBD. Your CBD and other cannabinoids are found primarily in the flower, in the bud of the hemp plant. Be very wary of multi-level marketing systems with regard to buying CBD. Again, I've had some people contact me. They've been approached by a friend who's selling this product, and if they buy this product and get another 5 people under them, please be very careful of those. Pyramid schemes is still very much alive out there, and with CBD, it just seemed to have come to the forefront again. Most of the products are very substandard, and a lot of them don't even contain CBD. And also, you know, really at the end of the day, you want to be buying products, a product that you're needing, and not because you feel you have to. It's a bad way to go when it comes to buying CBD for the benefit of your health. to now be having to sometimes fork out unnecessary monies as a business. It doesn't work. Now, one that I can't stress enough is please do not be afraid, and never be afraid to contact your CBD hemp oil companies directly. Ask questions. If you are not able to speak to somebody at that company, then my recommendation to you is walk away. Just walk away and don't even think about dealing with that brand or looking at that brand again. Walk away and look for another reputable brand of CBD supplier or CBD stockist out there. And there we go. So our next slide, there we are. Just so that you know, I hope the buying tips helped you a bit there, but that's just a picture of an actual hemp farm here in Ireland, in Wicklow. My husband and I went to. So that is just to prove to you, because a lot of people say to me, hemp in Ireland, rubbish. And that's not true. It actually loves our climate, and it is growing all over Ireland. The farm that you're actually looking at there, obviously, is just a tiny section. It was absolutely enormous. They were growing their hemp primarily for hemp seeds as a whole food, and obviously the hemp seeds for the hemp seed oil. But it was beautiful. It was a great experience, and there are tours to various hemp farms around Ireland. Unfortunately, this year it's not going to happen, but hopefully next year I will be participating again, and I look forward to it. And maybe I might meet some of you there. There we go. So this is what I was talking about earlier with regard to especially the organic side. This is all over the show at the moment, and not just with regard to CBD products. This is called greenwashing, or as we like to call it in the CBD industry, weed washing. So greenwashing, in a whole picture to describe it, is really where a brand or a product would, for example, having used a black label before on their product, will now change their label to green. And the green is now to signify that they are part of the new eco-friendly movement that is obviously happening around the world, to save our planet, to save the world that we live in. And a lot of these companies use greenwashing instead of actually even making true efforts. As I said, for example, changing their label to green where it used to be black before, possibly causing an indentation maybe in a drinking bottle and saying that we've cut down by 30% on our plastic bottle, which really at the end of the day, it's still plastic. So that is greenwashing. And greenwashing is found in the CBD industry and the hemp industry all over. One of the big things is the labeling of all natural. Well, that is questionable, okay? All natural does not mean that the ingredients inside the product that you're looking at are actually natural. Natural is a very broad word and doesn't necessarily mean it comes from nature. The next one is the use of cannabis oil. There's a lot of products out there that state contains 10% cannabis oil. And when you read the label carefully, that very fine print that at the back, or sometimes the label doesn't even have the information on it, the cannabis oil they are referring to is actually cannabis seed oil, which is another term for saying hemp seed oil, and doesn't contain any CBD at all. So there we go. The other way of weed washing is using cheeky label terms like kush oil or dope oil and so forth. milligram dosage on the label of packaging. That is really, really important. But a lot of the products out there just seem to have put the products into 3 categories of low, medium, and high strength, which is not allowed. So that again is another weed washing. They are not disclosing at all the actual true facts of the product that they have with regard to showing how many milligrams of CBD is actually in that whole bottle and in each drop. A lot of products will state that they have certain approval or certification. My advice to you is check that approval, check that certification. There are labels out there, and it's becoming more and more difficult for the consumer. And I feel for everybody that's out there wanting to buy CBD products, but it is becoming so difficult, because how are we all supposed to know exactly which label represents bio, which label represents organic, which label represents kosher, which label represents, and so forth and so on. And there are so many false labels being produced out there that look nearly exactly the same as a true approval seal, but there's a slight change on it. So people look at it, they go, oh yes, no, that's it, that's the organic label, or that's the bio label, and so forth. But in actual fact, there is a tiny change on that label. Now, obviously, authorities are out there constantly trying to fight against it. But as most of you know, it is a very, very difficult job for them to get on top of it 100%. So as a consumer, it is one of our responsibilities to ourselves to maybe just double check that approval, double check that certification. One of the certifications or statements and approvals out there is the differences between the word organic. Well, if a product states it's 100% organic, then all the ingredients and the practices are certified organic. But there's a lot of products out there that state that they are just organic, which means actually that it contains 95% organic ingredients with some approved chemical additives. So still good. But then there are some products out there that state boldly, and no one really knows that there's a major difference with regard to what it actually means. Made with organic ingredients. Now, this certification means that some of the ingredients are organic, not all of them. And you may now have an actual broader amount of the ingredients in there that are possibly not organic and could be of chemical background, for example. So as a consumer, and as I said, it's so difficult to stay on top of this, but my advice is read everything carefully. If you have any doubt, then just step away from it, rather go do some research and come back. You know where the product is. If you do your research and you find that everything is hunky-dory, 100%, then you know where the product is and you're able to go back to that shop or retailer and so forth and then purchase your product. But try not buy just on a whim. Think about it. This is about your health. So there we go. Next. Now, how can I take CBD? Well, there are various ways of taking CBD. The most common method is CBD oil. The CBD oil is placed underneath the tongue, and it is absorbed directly into our bloodstream sublingually. Now, it takes a little bit longer to get into our system, usually about 20 minutes or so for it to be really in our system, but it lasts in the body for generally between 4 to 6 hours. We then have CBD capsules. Now, the CBD capsules are really suited to people that are on the go the whole time, or for those that are extremely taste sensitive and are not able to take the natural, rich flavor, full flavor of hemp itself. It is a plant, it tastes like a plant. So the capsules are a way of them getting their CBD, their daily CBD. Obviously, it goes through the digestive system. It's going to take longer to get into the system, but once it's in the system, it actually lasts a good while in the system itself. Now, there are differences in bioavailability. Bioavailability is, in other words, how much of that product is able to get into our bodies. So with each of the methods, there are differences in the bioavailability. The CBD oil has a good bioavailability. The capsule has a slightly less bioavailability than the oil that's put under the tongue. But our vape oils, which is another method of obviously getting the CBD, the vape oil vaped into the lungs, the bioavailability is the highest of those three methods of taking CBD. Now, obviously, with the vaping, I recommend that you read your ingredients on your vape oil. Ensure as much as possible that you are not taking a CBD vape oil that contains synthetic flavorants. CBD itself actually burns at a lower temperature. So most of the actual vaporizers out there that were designed for nicotine vaporizing tend to burn the CBD oil, and in doing that, they actually change it into a carcinogenic. And not just the CBD itself, but also those synthetic flavorants also tend to burn at lower temperatures. So they also become a carcinogenic, whether it's in a CBD oil or other vaping oil. So again, your bioavailability for CBD vaping is highest of those three methods. You feel the effects of CBD vaping immediately, but the effects are shorter lasting, usually approximately 2 to maximum 3 hours. And that's when vaping with CBD. We also can use CBD in topical applications, creams, salves, oils directly onto the skin. Obviously, it is topical. It will work only on that area that you have applied it to. But the CBD, due to its molecular structure, is able to penetrate deep into our epidermal layers, into our skin, and get right to the capillaries and the tissues. So if you want to know more about topical treatments and the aromatherapy side with regard to, for example, topically using the hemp essential oil, then I do have an article on the healthyhemp.ie website. Please feel free to read into that more. Another way of taking CBD is ingesting it. Teas, hemp tea made from the flower is beautiful. Coffee infused with CBD, because obviously you can't have a natural hemp coffee. And there's other edibles, CBD edibles. Some CBD is made into an edible. Generally, a lot of the CBD edibles that are made directly to eat contain CBD isolate and not the full spectrum, but some edibles are made with full spectrum CBD extract, full spectrum being all the cannabinoids, isolate obviously being only CBD itself, and no THC, etc. Another way of improving our health, and I've put that department down there, is our whole foods. So really, it's not just CBD that comes from the hemp plant that will help us to improve our health. I mean, you know, if a lot of people come to me and they say, okay, so if I take CBD, is that going to be it? Is that I'm going to be beautifully healthy? And I say to them, no, there's a bigger picture. You don't just take CBD. You need to encourage your body in other ways. As I said, we all have bad diets. We live in toxic environments, our lifestyles. So there are other steps that we can take. But one of the steps that we can take is actually to encourage our body to produce its own and natural endocannabinoids, anandamide and 2-AG. And one of the ways of doing that is, for example, from hemp seed oil itself. Hemp seed oil is packed with omega-3 and 6, and our natural cannabinoids are promoted. Our body's promoted to produce more of our natural cannabinoids with the intake of omega-3 and omega-6 into our diets. Besides all the other, there are other fatty acids out there packed with omegas, for example, your coconut oil and so forth. So it's adding that to our actual lifestyle, to our eating habits, to naturally cause our bodies to want to produce more of our endocannabinoids. So we have the oils available. We have hemp protein directly from the hemp. It's raw, it's untreated, it's beautiful, full of fiber as well. Also, again, fiber is phenomenally important to our health, to our digestive system. And when we consider that 70% of our immune comes from our gut, we want to make sure everything's working well. So, and then obviously we have the hemp seeds, fabulous. Again, they contain everything we would find in the hemp seed oil, and again with the natural fiber. So that's some of the ways that you can take CBD. Obviously, the oil under the tongue seems to be the most common method of taking CBD, and then it would be, in my opinion, the rest of the methods are depending on what's suitable to each person individually. So now, if you need any more advice than that, I am going to give you a little bit more when the slideshow is finished here. But if you do need any more advice, I am available. So please don't hesitate to contact me. If I can answer your question, I most definitely will. If I cannot, I will give you advice or give you websites, reputable websites, reputable companies that are non-biased, that are not there just trying to promote the one side of hemp. They actually, and CBD and even medical marijuana, they are completely non-biased and give both sides of the coin. So there we go. So I would like to thank you, but before we go on any further, I'm just going to close that. And there we go, we'll stop sharing the screen there. Right. Okay, now I see there's a lot of questions there, and if you don't mind giving me just a few minutes, I just want to take a quick look here. Right. Okay. Paul has a question about multi-level marketing was an ethical way of doing business. Paul, all I'm saying with that is please just be careful. Unfortunately, with the CBD industry, as I said, there's this huge influx. It's a boom. It has really flooded the market. And with that, you've got your opportunists out there that are basically put in lovely labels, and whether they be pretty looking or they've really done their marketing, they know what the consumers more likely to be attracted to, and they are now making a business out of it with the multi-level marketing. I know that the pyramid selling is against the law. It's not me who's saying it's something to be wary of, but yeah, just make sure you really have looked at everything, if that is something that, you know, something that you're wanting to embark on. But with regard to the CBD side, I do say, before diving in, just really take a good hard look at everything, read between the lines, yeah, I don't know how much more to say about that to you. I apologize. Okay. You have asked also a question there about a product. I don't know that particular product that you have mentioned, and I apologize for that as well. I would have to actually look into that. But even then, who I am, and as a company, I never brand bash. It's something that I have stated from the very beginning. I never brand bash other brands because I do not know those brands properly. I leave the testing and all of that to the professionals, and I look at what the professionals have come back with. Now, unfortunately and sadly, even in Ireland, we actually have some products that are really marketed very well in Ireland, but the CBD content has been questioned by authorities after testing and so forth, not just once, but several times. But the product is still available, so that's yeah. I don't brand bash, I'm sorry, and I don't know that particular brand you're asking me about. Yes, so that is one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and I will actually move to that right now. Ladies and gentlemen, we talk about hemp, and hemp out there at so many events that I've been to, people go, oh yes, the CBD, I've heard about CBD, but there seems to be a forgotten thing about hemp, is that hemp has so many uses. It's not just for CBD, it's not just for a food supplement. Hemp has been used for generations and generations, and in actual fact, Ireland used to grow masses of hemp for the purpose of making hemp ropes, hemp sails, hemp fabrics, etc. So hemp's been around for a very long time. I think they say 8,000 to 10,000 years now. There's over 50,000 products that can be made from the cannabis sativa plant. So yes, but when it comes to hemp with regard to food, you need to be careful with regard to the organic side. And the reason why is that hemp is a bioaccumulator. Now, what is a bioaccumulator? A bioaccumulator actually sucks all the nasty toxins. It cleans the soil. So if there's something nasty like heavy metals and other toxins in the soil, radiations, it will actually draw all of that out of the soil, and therefore that plant cannot be consumed. It's no. Okay, so when it comes to actually growing and producing organic CBDs, it's actually very few CBD producers and suppliers actually are able to go organic, because it's an expensive way to go. I know in Ireland, if I remember correctly, and please don't shoot the messenger, I think it's 5 years that you have to grow. The soil has to be cleansed over a period of 5 years. It takes 5 years for the soil to actually be ready to now start growing stuff organically. And in that 5 years, you're not allowed to have used any anything on the soil, any chemical, any pesticides, any of that. So ladies and gentlemen, please be careful when it comes to, again, which products you're going to choose, and it must have the 100% organic behind it, because of what hemp naturally does. It cleans the soil, which I think is fantastic and should be grown in more and more places around the world. We've got some areas in our poor world that the soil could definitely use a good old cleaning, and there's the perfect plant to do it. So now, also with regard to growing organically, just some of the pointers that I found out very briefly is, for something to be grown organic, number one, farmers, and that this is what they have to follow. The hemp seeds have to be 100% untreated. The soil quality has to be organic soil 100%. It has to be 100% naturally fertilized. So absolutely no chemicals at all. You can fertilize it with slurry, and this is where a big element comes in. In Ireland, yes, a lot of our farmers obviously fertilize the soil with slurry, but that you also have to be a little bit careful about, because of if it comes to vegans. Now, there are some products out there that are vegan friendly. We actually have one ourselves. So those products only use vegetation to feed the soils, where other products may be using slurry, but obviously it comes from an animal. So it's not vegan or vegetarian suitable. So also check that if you are a vegan. And also with regard to the slurry, just to be making sure that that farmer, basically, they've got to be so careful for them to keep their organic certification. They cannot feed the animals anything that would go against the organic regulations and laws. So it is an expensive route to take. That's why not many CBD companies are doing it. Another point is no growth hormones are allowed to be used with regard to growing organic hemp, which is commonly used by a lot of hemp farmers, is the growth hormones. They also, you can't use enhancers and stimulators, steroids, all of that. No radiation. Now, that is quite difficult, but again, we have natural radiation found in soils or water supplies, and it can come into a field from a runoff. So the farmers have to be constantly checking that there's no radiation being detected in their soils. And again, the last thing is that for it to be certified organic, you've got to have the overall health of the plant has to tick all the boxes on the organic. It can't have any bacteria, it can't have had any parasitic infections or fungal infections. So growing an organic hemp, now hemp itself is this natural, it has its own natural insecticide, if that's what you want. It keeps away bugs by itself, so that's lovely. But you do, obviously, to grow organic hemp, you have to be careful. And it's quite costly for the hemp farmers to produce 100% organic CBD extract. So that was just on the hemp, and I'm sorry I'm bouncing around a bit there, but I came across and I thought, you know what, it was really important. So right, I'm going to actually end our presentation there. I'm going to then look at a few of the questions that have popped up and answer them as best as I can for you. If I cannot, as I said, I will most definitely find the answer for you and get back to you, or refer you on to a recommended website to research yourself. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed your day. Yeah, it went on a little bit longer than I thought it would. So, but I think we hit it there in the 50-minute mark. So, but thank you very, very much. And I'm just going to now turn off the recording and then chat to you all individually if you're wanting to. So thank you very much, and keep well, keep smiling, and I'll speak to you now.